Hello friends, and welcome to Marie Green Yoga here on YouTube. And a couple of classes previous to this one, we've been doing sun salutations. So today we're weaving in an afternoon Yin Yoga practice for a full reset from top to bottom. So let's start by sitting on a block or maybe a pillow, or maybe you're comfortable sitting onto your mat. We just need one block today and we'll skip the straps. It could be nice to have a pillow or two if you needed some help with knees or for the back of the head as a pillow. Anything that makes it comfortable for this next about 60 minutes of passive long held stretches for the deeper layers in the body and a full afternoon reset. So let's take a comfortable seat and we'll drop the knees below the hips so that our hip flexors and our seat is nice and relaxed. Let's take the hands and pull them in onto the middle of our thighs so that our shoulders and elbows are stacked below and above each other. And from there, we'll just take a nice comfortable seat. Sit bones nice and stacked, spine nice and long. We'll start by dropping our left ear towards the left shoulder and getting a stretch in towards the right side of the neck, into the scalenes, into levator scapula if we tilt the nose down. And we'll take it to where we feel like we need an extra longer hold stretch today. Maybe it's deltoids, maybe it's simply all kinds of different places around the neck. And we'll just see if we can be as passive as possible. We go to the edge of the stretch and then we hold it there, and then we keep it as still as we can and let just the weight of our posture do the work to release and reset into the deeper layers. Connective tissue, ligaments, fascia, tendons, really all the way down towards the deepest layers, even the smallest of the cell. However, we are certainly focusing on the connection between muscle and bone, that structure, which is a little bit stronger, a whole lot stronger, and more, sometimes it becomes a little extra tight. So we'll hold it a little bit longer, about 20 breaths for this practice today, which will take us to about 3 minutes for each pose. And we'll make sure that we are as passive as we can, letting the muscles be relaxed and not helping out to stretch. For now, we're certainly having help to sit up. It soon will be down onto the mat. We'll take one more breath here. And then taking the left hand on the side of the head, bringing the head upright and dropping the right ear to the right shoulder and stretching in towards the left side of the neck. Maybe the nose goes down, maybe it's to the side. Go and see where you're feeling, where you need to have your neck stretch. Again, we'll have our hips and our shoulders stacked above and below each other. And then we just sit with that and letting the layers between shoulder, base of the skull, cheek area, back of the neck, that whole area, get some nice, gentle, but comfortable pressure to lengthen, to untie knots, to reset the layers on the left side of our neck. And we'll do another couple of breaths right here. We'll just sit nice and easy, seat and shoulders stacked above and below each other. Another 5 nice long breaths here. And just check yourself that you're sitting upright and not leaning over to one side. Inhaling and exhaling. Letting the breath flow with ease to all parts of the body. And from here, taking the right hand on the side of the head and coming to upright seat. And then from here, we'll take our block away and come all the way down onto our backs. And you might use the block as a pillow. I'm gonna not use it as a pillow today, but if you have, if you need support for the chest and for the neck and for the scalings, please do put a something pillow block underneath your head. Hands can come around your knees and arms around knees and hands interlaced, or one hand around a wrist, and we'll come into upward facing child's pose, plugging the femurs in, bringing the sacrum down towards the mat, inhaling and exhaling, letting the muscles be heavy, knowing that by doing these yin yoga practices, we are certainly addressing a lot and all of our meridians in the body. Today we're focusing on deep stretching and a full body reset. And we inhale and exhale. Shoulders are heavy, biceps are heavy, arms are heavy, spine is heavy. And we'll see if we, with each and every breath, can get even a little bit more passive into the knees and hips. Shoulders are heavy, the breath is coming and going with ease. We are kind of cutting off the circulation for the hips so that when we do come to outstretched leg pose variations, then we'll have a nice flush of nice and fresh oxygenated blood going through the hips, hip flexors, quadricep tendons. Give ourselves another 5 breaths here. Inhaling and exhaling. Shoulders are heavy. And one more breath right here. And then slowly releasing the arms. Go nice and easy on the hips and the knees. Feet on each side of the mat, arms to the side. We'll give ourselves a couple of windshield wipers side to side before we either will take a block underneath our hips or we'll simply take the right knee into the chest. So take any that works for you. I'm going to put a block underneath my sacrum, bending the knees, lifting the hips up, using the glutes, taking the block right on that triangle bony part at the base of the spine, at the sacrum. And then from here, we're going to bring the right knee in and take our hands below the knee, or if that's too much pressure for the knee, then we'll take it underneath the knee, right? So it's comfortable. If there's pressure on the knee, then we can always give a little buffer so it's not being too pressurized into that knee joint. Come nice and easy on the block or lay flat onto your mat and get your knee towards your chest. Stretch your left leg forward and find your edge on your stretch, and then from there we'll stay right here and enjoy getting a knee to chest stretch with, it's kind of a supine stag variation. And we'll have the stretch going into the left front of the hip. Again, closing off circulation on the right side of the hip, or plugging the femur in, and it's like we're getting to open up those ligaments and tendons in the right hip by really hugging them in and putting some extra pressure on them. and getting them some more mobility as we come back out of this pose. And a full extension on the left leg, but the left leg is as passive as it can after we found our edge on the stretch. And then we just stay there and hold it as still as we can, and noticing the different feelings in the left front of the hip and sinking into that. Inhaling and exhaling. Noticing different places in the body that starts to kind of move around underneath the skin, around the muscles. Inhale and exhale. Arms are heavy. Fingers are interlaced. Toes are passive. With each and every breath, our body and our muscles gets to be a little bit more passive, muscles gets to be more heavy, and we're sinking in breath by breath into the deeper layers of the hips that we're stretching. We'll stay another 5 breaths here. And slowly release and switch to the second side. For me, it's easier to bring one leg in and then stretching out the opposite leg. Hands again, either underneath the knees, and maybe you're on or off the block, and then stretching the right leg fully out as far as it can go comfortably. What we're feeling is stretching the right side of the hip, and then pressing the left knee in towards the chest, and then as passive as we can with toes, ankles, knees. The left knee is kind of being pushed into a passive form or a stretch hold, but the right kneecap is nice and passive. Left side of the hip is being put pressure on, like a lot, so that the smaller ligaments and tendons, rotators, hip flexors, adductors, they are being kind of stretched maybe to their limit, and then by doing that we put some good pressure on them, and when we release we get some nice refreshed oxygenated fresh blood through the hips and rejuvenate the hips and reset them. So we hold it here for about another 12 or so breaths, and checking in the toes, ankles, knees, hips, rib cage, shoulders are as passive as they can be. And then we'll stay there. And with each and every breath, we sink a little deeper and a little deeper and a little deeper. Inhaling and exhaling. Trying to be as passive as we can in all our parts, so that the stretch isn't being kind of stolen by any of the other muscles. We just want ligaments and tendons, connective tissue around the hips to be put pressure on. Another 3 breaths here. And slowly release the hands and left foot down. Get comfortable on your block or without your block. and we're going to stretch both legs out for supported bridge pose with arms overhead and with the feet to the side. If it's too much to have both legs at the same time, then do one at a time, and we'll do about 10 breaths on each side. I'll let you know when we're halfway there. And we get a full front of the belly, hips, knees, rib cage, full front body stretch. Inhale and exhale. And it's a little bit easier to be all passive here because we can just let all the muscles relax, passive, nothing is holding. The arms are either maybe to the side, or if it's comfortable, take your arms over your head and find your elbows. And then let the muscles of the arms be heavy and passive. And just by letting the weight relax and not kind of squeeze the midline in any shape or form, then we get that nice, comfortable edge kind of pressure onto the hips. And really addressing the whole front body. Stretching the front side not only resets the front side of the body, but also the lower back area, because we're stretching those hip flexors. We are getting the lower abdominals, the organs, get a nice rejuvenating full elongation. And if you have one leg bent, you can switch to the second side. Toes and fingers are passive. Ankles and wrists are passive. Knees and elbows are passive. Hips and shoulders are nice and heavy, supporting us. The breath is coming and going as it likes. We'll stay another 3 breaths here. We are on a sunny day after 2 days of a lot of snow coming down. So I have all kinds of ice and snow falling off of my roof. That's probably being picked up a lot, not to be worried. It's just springtime moving in with some nice warm sun outside. And slowly taking your hands down to the side, and if you have one bent, then you can just bend the other leg in, and from here we're going to squeeze the glutes and lift ourselves off, squeezing the glutes, hugging in towards the lower back, taking the block to the side. Take your hands on each side, and then from here roll into the spine and squeeze the glutes and do one nice big lift up. Hug the back body, activate the muscles. They were passive, and then we'll bring the back down and give ourselves a couple of rolls on the sacrum with the knees in towards the chest, and just taking and guiding the knees a couple of times around one direction, and then we'll circle it the other direction. Inhale and exhale. And then from here, take our happy baby pose with arms inside the legs, hands on the outside of the feet. And then after stretching the front side of our legs and the lower backs, we get to find more space for femurs to rotate and put comfortable pressure onto our hips and adductors, hamstrings, and freeing up any stagnant energy in hips, hamstrings, adductors, quads, knees. So we have passive toes, we have hands around the feet or around the knees if that feels better. And then we have that 90-degree angle on the knee area. And we sink the sacrum down towards the mat. Lower back is being a little more elongated, even if it's not lifted off of the mat, which is that's a big stretch. It probably is not happening, but I just want us to have our sacrum a little bit heavier down towards the mat and the lower back slightly lifted. And then we'll stay here for another 15 or so breaths. Adjusting and resetting adductors, which helps to reset in towards the sacral plate, SI joints, which helps to reset in towards our knees. And we'll stay here, finding the edge of our stretch, checking in that all the muscles are as passive as they can. Letting all of the muscles be as passive as they can, and finding the deeper layers that binds the muscles to the bones. All of those ligaments and tendons, connective tissues will give them a little extra hold so that they can kind of support and be the same size, so that the muscles and for the muscles, so the muscles and ligaments can be a nice kind of pair of working together. And then we'll stay and inhale and exhale, feeding some good circulation to our connective tissue. Another 5 breaths here, inhaling and exhaling. And slowly release and bring the knees in towards the chest. Inhaling and exhaling, and bring the feet back down onto the mat, feet on each side. Give yourself a couple of pelvis tilts, scooping tailbone, extending, inhaling and exhaling. And then I would like for us to come over onto that left side and come to a side seal, which is onto the forearm. And from here, we're gonna take our right foot and put it in front of the left knee. And then we can stay right here and drop the head. Here's one version. You can hold your hand as a support, but we'll stay as passive as we can. Now you can also take this block and put it sideways for your forearm and come a little higher up for IT band and side of the waist axis. And then we'll stay right here. I like to just put my hand right there, not necessarily holding on, but just a little place for that ankle to not to go too far away. And then as passive as we can, and we get that figure 4 version onto the rotators on the right side of the hip. And we'll stay here for about 10 breaths, and then we'll switch to the second side. And inhaling and exhaling. Side seal with a pigeon version incorporated. We're letting our right side of the neck get a stretch as well. Ear towards the shoulder. Toes are passive. Left leg is as passive as it can. getting into the left side of the waist area, from hips to floating ribs, IT band, the connective tissue on the side of the body. With each and every breath, we get even a little bit further in towards that left lower back, middle, and side of the body. One more breath here. And then we take our head up, press the forearm down, and extend the right leg and switch to the second side. Taking our block with us. If we used to block, if we didn't need that extra lift, then just leave the block behind. And I like to just turn it a little bit out and then straighten the right leg underneath and take the left foot over, bringing it up, kind of hooking my wrist right around the ankle, but in a passive way. And then after straightening the right leg, then we get to be passive in the knee and then dropping the right ear towards the right shoulder. And we get to stay here and stretch into the left side of the neck. And inhaling and exhaling, and then we drop even more in towards like a hammock on the right side of the waist. We just hammock it all the way down. We don't have to hold any side planks or this plank or that plank. We just get to put comfortable, passive, stretchy energy onto that side body, and we'll get into the left to the right side of the hip, IT band, into the connective tissue fascia sheet from the top of the hip up to the floating ribs. We'll go right in there and sinking it down, inhaling and exhaling. Side seal, crescent body stretch with a nice comfortable version of pigeon into the side. We just have about 10 breaths, so about 5 more here. Sinking in, each and every breath takes us a little bit further into a nice new space, resetting the right side of the hip, right side of the waist, freeing up space for the lower back by stretching the side body. Inhaling and exhaling. And one more breath. And then we slowly lift our head up and release. And take your leg back out. And then from here, we'll come and take child's pose with our big toes together and our knees apart. And stretch the arms forward. And come all the way forward with the hands. And please do take a block underneath the belly if needed for sternum and belly button. And then from there, lay yourself down, or a pillow, or if you have a bolster, stretch the arms forward, pull the belly button in, elbows to the side, and then we'll take the third eye towards the mat. And from here, we'll let the elbows relax. We'll let the side of the hips be stretched out. We get some healthy pressure onto the knees, and we get to expand the whole back body. And we stay here for another 10 or so breaths, letting the whole spine open up, letting the shoulder blades drape off from the center. Another 5 nice long breaths here. Taking the breath to any place where it feels tight. And slowly making your way back up onto tabletop. Tuck the toes, take the knees under the hips and arch the belly up to the sky. And slowly coming back into a neutral spine, and we're going to come into dragon pose, so with a little external rotation. So let's take our block with us to the left side of our mat and step the right foot and turn it forward, and then we're going to turn the right foot out and take our forearms onto the block, tuck the back toes under, lift your knee and hop it back a few inches or maybe a few millimeters. And then we have this external rotation, kind of mimicking or similar to that side-lying seal with our foot in front. So we're getting back into those adductors and rotators, hips, some hamstrings involved. And we're just keep on resetting into the deeper structural layers of the body. Our head can be upright, but I like to always also just get that neck stretch in whenever it's available. We can drop the head down, and we have the weight distributed evenly for this dragon pose, the front, the back, and we'll stay right here, making sure that you are within your comfort zone. If you need it to be on your hands, you come up on your hands, and make sure that you get this pose in a nice, perfect, comfortable zone for you. So wherever that might be. And we have ourselves another about 12 breaths here, where we inhale and exhale, getting hip flexors, quadricep, lower belly on the left side, external rotation, ligaments and tendons on the right side, passive stretching. We try to have the weight distributed evenly on the hips. So the back knee, the front foot, they're kind of talking to each other a little bit to make sure that they are having an even support for our hips. Inhale and exhale. Another 3 breaths here. And slowly tuck the toes under in the back and help yourself up. 1 full stretch for the knee, and then we'll switch to the second side and we'll come to the back of the leg when we're on to our back in a little while, in a few poses away. Switch to the second side, move your block to the right side, step your left foot forward, turn it out, 45-degree angle, take your forearms onto your block, tuck the back toes under, lift your knee, and then hike your knee just a little bit back, just so you come to that edge kind of stretch on your quadricep on the front side. And then left toes are slightly turned out, forearms are supporting us. The head can certainly be upright, but as passive as possible. You can also get a neck stretch by tipping your head down. And again, the front foot, the back knee are having a little conversation to even out our weight evenly onto the hips. External rotation on the front leg, adductors, hamstring layers on the adductor side, hips, rotators. Right side is all about hip flexors, quadricep tendons, ligaments, full reset for our hips. Inhale and exhale. We come to a nice comfortable place where we can stay for another 10 or so breaths. Putting some healthy pressure on hips, legs. Full reset, adductors, knees, front of the hips into the lower back area. And we'll stay another breath here, and then we'll make our way all the way up. Tuck the back toes, hands on the mat, extend your left leg and sink yourself back for a breath. And then we're going to give the hips a little bit of a pause. Put the block to the side and come on to your belly, please. And we'll come to shoulder stretch. So I'll turn my back to you, but follow along, please. And take your right arm out to the side, parallel to your shoulder. And maybe if you have something on the mat that will guide you to the side. Turn over onto the right side, and then we'll take the left foot behind, and we'll come back to our figure 4 version, and the left hand can come into the lower back. And then we'll move up into shoulders, chest, elbows, making sure that our legs are as passive as they can. Dropping in to the right shoulder, pectoral tendons, bicep tendons, scalenes, collarbone area. Get a full reset for the right side of our upper body. As we let our muscles be as heavy as we can, passive stretching, healthy pressure onto ligaments and tendons and connective tissue, the structure that supports and holds our muscles and really our whole body. We drop in for another 7 or so breaths here. One more breath. And then slowly undo the top arm and make your way over, stretching your legs, come to the belly, and we're going to switch to the second side. Maybe make yourself comfortable in your space. Take your left arm out, roll over onto the left side of the body. Fingers, palm is facing down, fingers are nicely spread open. And then we'll take that figure 4 with our right foot behind us. And I like to just bend slightly into that left leg as a little kickstand support onto the mat. And the
right arm behind, and then we'll just drop ourselves down and stretch in towards the left upper body, shoulder, chest, ligaments and tendons around our shoulder. We're making sure that we're on the bicep area on our arm, on our upper arm. Palm is facing down. Arm is about 90 degrees out or something like that. As passive as we can. Dropping into the layers of the left shoulder, resetting. With each and every breath, we're moving some nice energy around. Healthy pressure onto ligaments, tendons, muscles, and bones. Stretching into shoulders has a nice ripple effect down to our whole spine and into the hips and vice versa. So today's practice is hips and shoulders, helping us to open up and resetting the deeper structure of the body. We stay for about another 10 or so breaths here. Another 3 breaths here as we reset our left shoulder, chest area, and then slowly undo the top arm, bottom leg, and come back on to our belly. And from here, hands by shoulders, lifting your shoulders off of the mat, coming up onto tabletop and sinking down to a child's pose just for a breath, getting some good stretch into those shoulders, even hips and shoulders out. And then we're going to come and cross at the ankles and make our way onto our seat and come all the way down onto our backs. Again, like a whole lap around the world in our body. And then from here, take your right leg up to the sky and hands around the hamstrings for outstretched leg pose. So from here, you can take your hands around your belly of the hamstrings. If you do have a strap and you'd like to use it, please do. Hook your foot around the foot with a strap if you wanted to. You can also take your right hand up to the foot, to the big toe. I'm wearing socks today, so I'm checking on the side of the foot, and the left hand can just gently come onto that left hip flexor area to remind the hip to stay down. And then here we are with a slight bend into both knees and as passive as we can. Inhaling and exhaling. Heavy shoulders, even hips and shoulders. Resetting into hamstrings, back of the knees. So we're either holding our hands behind the hamstrings, using a strap if we have, or a scarf or something, or taking our hand up to the foot. Getting a nice full reset into hamstrings after doing all those different external rotations. Give ourselves another 10 breaths here. With each and every breath, we get a little heavier, the stretch gets a little deeper, muscles gets more passive, and the white leg structure can lengthen even a little bit more. And giving us that nice, relaxed, outstretched feeling. One more breath here. And then slowly bend your knee down and switch to the second side. I like to hug the knees in and then take my hands around the left hamstrings and kind of check and see how it's feeling. Stretching the right leg out and then relaxing that right leg out on the mat. And then this is where we either find a strap or a scarf or take our hand up towards the foot or leave our hands around the hamstrings, right? The leg is straight up. We're getting the back of the leg, the back of the knee, whichever version works for you. Taking your right hand just leisurely onto the right hip to remind it to stay down. Shoulder blades down, chin in, shoulders and hips are supporting us. And then we'll do our best to relax the larger muscles. And then we'll just sink in and inhale and exhale. Left arm is heavy. Fingers are active, holding the foot if you're up there. Besides that, most parts of our body is as passive as it can, so we can reset ligaments and tendons for the hamstring layers on the left side. We'll stay about another 10 or so breaths. Another breath here. Inhale and exhale and take that extra breath into the full reset on the back of the left leg. And then we bring the knee in and bring both the knees in, hugging the knees together, circles on the sacrum one way and then the other way around. And then we're going to squeeze the midline because there's been a lot of external rotation to open rotators, getting to inner knees, getting to our hips. We're going to take our feet all the way together and the right leg high up onto the left for shoelace pose. If this doesn't work, we'll come to figure four. Just wanted to offer something besides our figure four shape. So we'll take our right leg high up onto the left and then bring our knees in. This is where we can take our hands around that left hamstring underneath the knee, sink the hips down. There should be a nice feeling on the right outer side of your hip, maybe the adductors. Hands can be fed down to the ankles. And then we can put some pressure onto our ankles with our hands and arms. We can take our hands down to the sides of the pinky toe side and also get the lateral side of the ankle stretched and reset. So here we are, finding your shoelace pose, upward facing shoelace pose, or a figure four, supine swan. You choose what works for you. Press the head, adjust shoulder blades. We're squeezing the midline passively. We're opening up to the rotators passively. And we stay here for about 10 breaths, and then we'll take the same shape but tipping our legs over for a twist. For now, we stay right here. Inhale and exhale. Dropping in for another 3 or so breaths here. Passively stretching by hugging, squeezing the legs together in a non-forceful way. It's intense for the hips. And we inhale and we exhale. And then from here, release the hands and put the left foot down and arms to the side. Lift your hips and tip yourself over onto the left side and come to supine twist with legs crossed over. If it doesn't work, then we uncross the legs and simply put them one on top of the other. Press your head, hike your left shoulder out so that you have both shoulder blades maybe onto the mat. And then you can turn your nose over towards the right hand. And twisting and turning. Heavy toes, passive toes, ankles, shins, calves, knees are heavy. Hamstrings and quads are nice and passive. And the twist is happening for the whole hip area, each and every vertebrae up towards the chest. Lots of ice and snow rolling up from the rooftop today. Palms are facing up, fingers are curled. Another 3 breaths here. And from here, take your legs back up to the sky, undo your knees, and come back onto your sacrum, feet together. Take your left leg high up onto the right, and come all the way up, and we'll come back to upward facing shoelace pose. Hands underneath the right knee, interlaced is a good version. You can definitely feel it in your left hip and probably in your adductors, or hands somewhere around the shins, or you take your figure four where you have your hands around your ankles or hands down on the pinky toe side for ankle stretch. It's different pressures on the knees. Make sure it's comfortable for you. Make sure you can stay here for about 10 breaths. Shoulder blades are even. Hips are heavy. Midline is being passively squeezed by just having the extra pressure from the arms, hands onto the legs. passively adjusting ankles, knees, hips. Another breath here. And then slowly release the hands and put your right foot down, arms to the side. Lift your hips up and come over onto the right side of your hip and drop your knees down, arms to the side. Press the head, adjust shoulder blades, and take your gaze over towards your left palm, and then certainly close your eyes. Don't have to have them open. And then we see if the adductors, legs can be as passive as they are able to, and then we get into our supine twist, hips, waist side of the body, each and every vertebrae from the sacrum all the way up towards the base of the skull. It's a big one for IT bands, side of the hips down to the knees. Rotators. Another 3 breaths here. Resetting into spine, hips, spine, shoulders, knees, ankles. And slowly release and make your way back up. Undo the legs. And again from here, take your knees all the way in and maybe roll one way on the sacrum and the other way around. And then we're going to come on up and find our block, and we're going to come into a supine back bend where either we have our legs, we have 3 different versions with the legs for this one. You can choose where you feel it works for you. It is an upper body back bend, fish pose, right? With a block, maybe 2 blocks, maybe one for the head, maybe you have a pillow, make it comfortable. And then the legs can either be forward, or you can have your feet together for butterfly, or you can, if you would like to, take your legs, lower legs back for Virasana, hero's pose. And then maybe we'll come up and come up from here and kind of mush the calves out a little bit, and then come down and have our feet on each side of our hips. Come and take the block in that upper middle back for our fish pose, and we get to adjust into ankles and knees. Now this is not for everyone. Maybe you clicked on this video because you saw this pose, and maybe this is what you worked your way up to, just like me today. And then we'll come here. The block is either on the low level or on the medium level. And then hands over the head, and we'll stay here. And you have either your legs forward or feet together, or ankles turned back towards the hips like this. You're either on a block, or you're laying on a pillow, or you're laying flat on your back. You choose where you would like to have your back bend. We are adjusting either way. We are adjusting each and every vertebrae. We're stretching into our chest by just having the arms over the head. We are stretching into our belly, to the rib cage, to the hips, to our knees and ankles, whether our legs are straight or bent in any shape or form. We're still opening up the layers. Just by stretching the upper body, it also does reset into the lower body. Hands are just gently holding on to the elbows if your elbows are over the head. Passive stretching, resetting the spine, resetting neck, shoulders, spine, hips, quads, hip flexors, hamstrings, adductors, abductors, all parts of our knees, lower legs, ankles, toes. We'll stay another 5 breaths here. Letting a nice big full stretch also go into our entire digestive system, each and every breath. And slowly take your hands, undo your hands, take your hands behind your head and help yourself up. Hands towards the feet or forearms onto the mat. Come on up, take the block to the side, come all the way up onto your knees, however you are. If your legs were forward, come to a tabletop. We're doing yin yoga, so we're sticking with bringing the legs out and just coming forward and back. Get some blood back through the knees or the hips, whichever version you have. And second side, back and forth a little bit, and then we're going to come to a comfortable seat. You might sit on a pillow or a block, and we are coming into straddle pose and getting some good blood through our knees. It feels good to stretch the legs out after what we just did, and we're going to close up with a forward bend, and then we are going to either lay ourselves down into Shavasana or sit while maybe you stay for Harmonium part, or maybe you stick with Shavasana. It is certainly a free option. So from here, come down onto your forearms on a block. Maybe you have 2 blocks. Maybe you decide to take your forearms to the mat and take your head to the block. And we're closing up with a forward fold with our feet comfortably away from each other, with the 4 corners of the knees up towards the sky, with our muscles of the legs very passive and heavy, and letting the deeper layers of the legs being reset by having comfortable pressure on our ligaments and tendons and joints and bones and muscles. And then we'll stay right here, passive knees, passive ankles, even seat. Resetting into legs to spine, closing up our practice by folding forward, by closing our energies down, keeping the nice new stretched open spaces protected by taking a forward bend and closing it up, keeping it for ourselves. Sharing the high vibration that we did with this Yin Yoga practice with others, but making sure that we keep the new, freshly stretched places for ourselves. Rejuvenated, reset. We'll stay another 3 breaths here. One more breath. And slowly making your way all the way up. Take the block to the side. Take your hands underneath your knees and close your legs together. Hug everything in. And then from here, find your way into Shavasana, which is laying flat onto our backs. And perhaps you will stay here while we will chant Ad Gorena Me. That is by Snatam Karul Khalsa. Or you might stay here in your Shavasana. You might come to a seat and sing along. I hope you do. This is also a wonderful place to be for our body to do the final reset. After all the poses that we just did with each other, then we'll let the body absorb all the new, freshly turned and churned places that we opened up and connected into deeper layers. Yoga is all about connecting our own body so that then we can go out and connect with conversation with others. So feel free to stay here and enjoy. Maybe get a comfortable blanket over you, or feel free to come and join me in a seat for Ad Gorena Me, a chant for peace and protection, first and foremost for ourselves, and then we take it out to others. We will close our afternoon Yin Yoga Reset with a beautiful mantra by Snatam Karul Khalsa called Ad Gorena Me, peace and protection for ourselves and for others. We'll take it 3 times through.
thank you for joining me for this afternoon Yin Yoga Reset session. It is much like what I teach on Sundays in Norwood, Colorado at the public library. So I wanted to share it with you here on YouTube as well. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your afternoon and evening, and that you feel all reset. And I look forward to seeing you in the next practice, which will be the fifth in a series of 5 of our sun salutations. We'll wrap it up tomorrow. So I look forward to seeing you then as well with a different tune. Okay, thank you. Namaste.